What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Pack a Day podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. And of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. You can follow the podcast at Pack a Day Podcast. Appreciate you joining me. Honestly, not sure if this is going to last like 3 minutes or like 30 minutes or anything in between, but I wanted to just discuss a little bit the importance and the decision that Green Bay has with De'Vondre Campbell, because I think it's blatantly clear how important De'Vondre Campbell was to this Packers defense this past season. And for a team that has really not emphasized the inside linebacker position via the draft, via free agency, basically at all, he was a complete revelation in the middle of the defense. He paired very well with Chris Barnes. He was a 3-down linebacker. He was fast. He was athletic, sideline to sideline, coverage ability, length, speed, strength, you name it. De'Vondre Campbell had it. No, by the way, calling the plays, organizing the defense. That is as good of an inside linebacker that Green Bay has had probably since Nitschke, and that first team All-Pro was certainly very well deserved. They've certainly had inside linebackers that have served the part. Nick Barnett, Desmond Bishop, A.J. Hawk certainly come to mind. But that was a phenomenal season from De'Vondre Campbell, and a real reason that Green Bay was so much better on defense than they were under the Mike Pettin regime. So that begs the question of just how much are the Packers going to prioritize this inside linebacker position, because De'Vondre Campbell is set to get paid, and Green Bay, I don't think, is going to want to just go into this next season with Chris Barnes as their primary inside linebacker and really no real option outside of Barnes to pair with him, whether it's Isaiah McDuffie, whether it's a Ty Summers, so on and so forth. They just don't have that next guy on the roster. Even Oren Burks is a free agent, right? So there's not a perfect solution here that Green Bay can just say, well, we feel pretty comfortable with De'Vondre leaving because Chris Barnes and Ty Summers have got this covered. That's not a great solution to the problem that you would have if De'Vondre Campbell left. And for a team that's tried things from B.J. Goodson to Christian Kirksey to Jake Ryan and even Blake Martinez, who had a pretty nice run in Green Bay, it just never fit the way that De'Vondre Campbell fit this past season. Now, as everything else this offseason is going to revolve around Aaron Rodgers, in some capacity, De'Vondre Campbell has to as well. Now, he has a void in his contract that's set to expire, which if Green Bay wants to get a deal done with Campbell, there would be an absolute benefit to getting that deal done basically today as you're listening to this on Sunday. However, I don't personally think that's going to happen. We'll see. I certainly could be wrong, have been wrong before, will be wrong again. But I don't think that's going to happen, which means that basically that void is going to hit, and now he's an unrestricted free agent, and Green Bay is going to have to make some decisions, or basically at least compete with every other team for his services, right? And I think that's where things get very complicated. And back to Aaron Rodgers for a moment, because once again, the decision as to whether or not Aaron Rodgers is going to be back affects all of these players, right? And Green Bay may not want to make any other major decisions with any of their other players until they get a real, legitimate, true response from Aaron Rodgers. Because if he says, I'm out, I'm retired, I want to be traded, etc., it doesn't behoove Green Bay to start moving some of these contracts as like an all-in for this season, and then Jordan Love or somebody else, whoever you want to put in that spot, is your quarterback, right? In some capacity, you probably know, if you're the Packers and if you're Brian Gutekunst, of if Rodgers is gone and we're going in a different direction, it doesn't make the most sense for us to push a ton of salary cap out and try to go all in this season. What are you going all in with? Who's your quarterback? Are you going to win a Super Bowl with that? Probably not. And whether that's Drew Lock, Marcus Mariota, Jordan Love, Kurt Benkert, or anyone in between, it's going to be a very tough sell to anyone to say, like, yep, we're going to go for it. We're going to try to win a Super Bowl. It just is what it is. And that's where De'Vondre Campbell becomes so interesting in that capacity, right? Because Campbell will be 29 in July. This is not a super young player. This is not somebody who's like in year 3 or 4 who came into the league at age 20 and is like 25, 26 years old. He is going to be 29 in July. So this is sort of an all or nothing with Green Bay and De'Vondre Campbell. And what clouds that and complicates that a little bit more is basically De'Vondre got his rookie deal, which, as we know, if you're not a first-round pick, is going to be a little bit less than ideal. So he gets his rookie deal, and then he gets he had an okay, original stint on his rookie deal, and then he goes to Arizona on a 1-year deal, doesn't get paid all that much money at all on basically a prove-it deal, goes to Green Bay on a 1 year, $2-ish million deal, doesn't get paid anything at all. If I'm De'Vondre Campbell and his agent, I am absolutely saying, hey, we don't want another 1 year stopgap. We want a 4 or 5 year deal that's going to keep De'Vondre with the team for the foreseeable future. This is his best. Like, he was just a first team All-Pro. He was legitimately just a first team All-Pro. This is De'Vondre's real opportunity to go out and get paid and get a long-term deal. Arguably his last chance to do that. Now, if he signs a 1 year deal with Green Bay and has another amazing year, you could argue that he could go out and get another big deal, but there's a lot of risk in that, right? A, he could have a subpar year from what he did a season ago. B, he could suffer an injury. Or C, even if he has a good year that doesn't quite live up to what he did a season ago, now he's a free agent, and guess what? In July of next year, he's going to hit that number that nobody really wants to see, 30, which makes things very, very different for him. So again, if I'm De'Vondre Campbell's agent, I am absolutely fighting for a 3, 4, 5 year deal as long as I can get with as much guaranteed money as possible. So what does that deal potentially look like? Now, Spotrac has different valuations for what they think a player is going to get in free agency. They have a couple different ones out there. They think the average could be a 2 year, $11.8 million deal or a 1 year, $5.7 million deal. I think it's going to end up much more than that. I really do. And I think he's going to want some type of long-term deal. But maybe, just maybe, De'Vondre Campbell really liked playing in Green Bay. Maybe he liked his linebackers coach, Kirk Olivadotti. Maybe he loved working with Joe Barry. Maybe if Rodgers comes back, you realize that there's an opportunity to win a championship in Green Bay, and maybe that means something to him. And maybe if he can get a really nice 1 year deal, maybe he's willing to say, you know what, I'll take that really nice 1 year deal, and then I'll take my free agency next year. I'm going to go ball out again, and I'll get my long-term deal next year. That's a possibility. That's not completely outside the realm of possibility, right? So what would that potentially look like? So of course, Green Bay could potentially sign him to a 2 year, $11.8 million deal or a 1 year, $6 million-ish deal. That's possible, right? I think if Green Bay wants De'Vondre Campbell, it's going to take more. I think it's going to take at least a 1 year, $10 to 1 year, $11 million deal. And I think that sounds really tough, right? As we talk about Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams and how far they are underneath the salary cap, that sounds very, very daunting. To put another $10+ million deal on the cap, it's man, they just don't have the money for that. And that's where void years kick in. And we just talked about the fact that De'Vondre Campbell is set to have his void year come off, and they're going to have some acceleration on the salary cap, which is why it would potentially behoove the Packers to get that deal done prior to end of day today, again on Sunday as you're listening to this. However, let's just say that passes. There is a way to do this. And I don't want to get too far in the weeds here, but his 1 year, the base salary would be a little bit over $1 million as a minimum. But we're just going to, for ease of explaining here, we're going to say that his base salary would be $1 million. All right. So on what happens on void years is you use the signing bonus. So how signing bonuses work is that they work prorated for the length of the contract. So a long time ago, before teams started to sort of use this loophole, what you would have would be a 4 year deal where the base salary would be $1 million this year, then $3 million, then $5 million, then $7 million. And then the signing bonus stays the same. So for example, if it's an $8 million signing bonus on a 4 year deal, it would be $2 million every single year. So on that first year, it's a base salary of $1 million, a signing bonus of $2 million for a total cap hit of $3 million. And then your dead cap, if you were to cut them, would be the signing bonus all added up together, plus any guaranteed base salaries. You could have some other bonuses as well, but for ease of use, that's basically what it would be. However, what teams started doing to make things easier more beneficial to the team from a salary cap standpoint is they started doing 4 year deals, but the years 2, 3, and 4 were completely fake. So years 2, 3, and 4 might as well have said $1 billion per season. It didn't matter. They were legitimate fake years on the contract. And why would a team do that, you might ask? And the reason is sort of what we just discussed. If you sign somebody to a 4 year deal, the signing bonus is prorated throughout the course of that contract. So if you sign, again, an $8 million deal, you would have $2 million, $2 million, $2 million, $2 million on the salary cap. So instead of paying that $8 million in signing bonus, instead of putting that as your base salary and paying that all in year one, you can now split that up through multiple years. And what happens is when then next year a fake salary cap number is put on the base salary, which basically voids the contract, any remaining salary cap or any remaining salary on the deal, all those signing bonuses are going to hit next year's cap instead of, prorating out, or instead of hitting this year's cap. So to make things simpler for you, so how this would basically work for De'Vondre Campbell, let's say he signed a 1-year, $11 million deal with Green Bay. As I mentioned, that sounds very daunting, right? Putting another $11 million on this salary cap in space that they already don't have, that becomes very complex and complicated. And it would make things for Russ Ball and the Packers very, very tough to sign back a Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers and so many other people that I'm sure they would love to keep on this team. However, if they go the void route again and say, hey, we're going to sign him to a 4-year deal, but really it's three of those years are fake years. 3 years are basically void years, but we're going to sign him to a $10 million signing bonus split up between 4 years. What you end up with in 2022 is a 1-year, $3.5 million deal. Now, that sounds amazing, right? That sounds incredible. We're going to get De'Vondre Campbell back on a 1-year, $3.5 million deal. And that is true. They could pay De'Vondre Campbell $3.5 million this season, less than Allen Lazard would get on a second-year tender for his restricted free agent term. They could get De'Vondre Campbell back at 1 year, $3.5 million. And you're clearly thinking of well, of course they would do. Why would you not do that? Let's just be clear here. De'Vondre and his agent, as I mentioned, may want a long-term deal. They want more. They may want something more of 4 years, $40 million. They may want something more aggressive, and they very well may be able to get it on the open market. So there's no guarantee that De'Vondre would take this. But if he is open to that, this is probably somewhere on a 1-year deal, probably again around $11 million, what it would take. This is an option for Green Bay. And if assuming De'Vondre and his agent would say, yes, we want to play with Green Bay, Aaron is back, we want to win a Super Bowl, this means a lot to us, we'll hit free agency next year again. If De'Vondre's open to that, then yes, this deal does work. It would cost $3.5 million on the salary cap this season, be one step closer to really bringing back the team that you had from a season ago. However, there's always a downside, right? Next year, what would happen is De'Vondre Campbell's fake contract would void, and $7.5 million would go on next year's salary cap with no player to show for it. He would be gone, he would be a free agent, and $7.5 million in dead cap would hit Green Bay salary cap in 2023. So it's great for this season. And trust me and believe me, if Green Bay wants to go all in this year with Aaron Rodgers and more players for this team moving forward, these are the type of deals that they're going to have to get done, which is meaning that they're going to have to sacrifice some from the future to make these things work. But that could be a type of deal that would work for De'Vondre Campbell in this specific scenario. Is that enough for De'Vondre and his agent? I don't know. Maybe it's less. Again, Spotrac on their site had a 1-year, $5.7 million deal as his potential valuation. To me, that is very much underselling a first-team All-Pro. I would be very surprised if he was anywhere near that range. I think he's going to be much higher. And again, they may want a long-term deal with higher overall signing bonus. That is a very legitimate thing as well. But if you're De'Vondre, you get a 1-year 11.5 or a 1-year $11 million deal, totally guaranteed, 11 million guaranteed, and you're an unrestricted free agent next year. That could be a tough deal to pass up and say, okay, I'm in for that, especially if Aaron Rodgers is back and you want to go try to win a Super Bowl. So this is where negotiations are really tough, because what the agent and the player want may be different than what the team wants. The team may not want to say hey, we don't need you for 4 years. We're in 2024, 2025, we're going to be rebuilding based on what the salary cap is at. And it's quite possible as well, if Aaron isn't back, that they may not even want him at that cost or that price point for this season, because they know that there's no window open where they're going to win a Super Bowl while De'Vondre is still in his prime on the team. Their best chance to win a Super Bowl would when he would be getting dead cap hits, or his contract would be overpriced when he's out of his prime. So this negotiation between De'Vondre Campbell and the Green Bay Packers is a really interesting one. All of that being said, it is absolutely time for Green Bay to prioritize this inside linebacker position. And if they want to go all in on this year, it is very difficult to look at this team and say they can be anywhere near as good without De'Vondre. So this is a very interesting player to keep an eye on. It's one that they absolutely should, do everything in their power to bring back if they are running this back to try to win another Super Bowl this season with Aaron Rodgers. But there's a lot of complications, including De'Vondre probably wanting a long-term deal and Green Bay probably not wanting to give him that. That's going to do it for me today. Thank you so much for joining me. Always appreciate it. I'll be right back here tomorrow with an all-new episode. Make sure not to miss it. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.